You want to think about AI as either a brainstorming partner or you want to think of AI as a tool. So a tool sits in your environment somewhere and it's given certain levels of access, and you only use that tool when a certain function needs to happen.
Welcome everybody. You are about to get in the hole with Tech-Gofer. I again am Nick Mulholland, president of Tech-Gofer, your host today, and we are excited to have Sagar Pandya from Ntiva, who's heading up their AI practice, which I'm very excited to talk to you today. How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic, man. Happy New Year. So good to be back on another podcast, and really excited to talk to you and jam for a little bit and share the knowledge around AI.
Absolutely. There's so many questions. It's such a ridiculous buzzword these days. Everybody is doing AI. So I'm hoping that you can help our listeners and viewers sort through the mess. But as we always do, we start with what are we drinking today? So what do you got over there?
I got an Athletic Brewing Belgian style white, non-alcoholic. I've been on non-alcoholic journey for a couple years. This stuff tastes really good. I don't know what voodoo magic they've done in the brewery that this is developed in, but it tastes very similar to, alcoholic beer. So this is my drink of choice today. It's Athletic Brewing.
Love it. That stuff is pretty good if you're looking for an alternative. I've got a raspberry iced tea high noon.
Nice.
The iced tea high noons, if for those of you who've never tried it, they're delicious. So
cheers, man. Cheers.
Yeah. So as a fellow entrepreneur, we met via a relationship in our EO group. Are you still in EO or you were?
I am. I'm still in EO. Yeah.
Cool. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to Ntiva?
Yeah. So founded my first IT services company right out of school, built that for 12 years, and sold it to Ntiva December of 2023. So I've been there for about 13 months, heading up their AI digital transformation practice. And man, I'll tell you, as an entrepreneur, you understand this, the punches you take and the gravel that you got to chew and the blood you got to spit out to get things done. It's a completely different experience now being inside of the Ntiva organization, because I'm more of like an entrepreneur right now. So it's a really interesting dynamic because there's people that are around you that are willing to share the burden. And it's not just you on a lonely island. So completely different experience, but it's, it's a welcome change. And I appreciate everything that we have going on here.
Yeah. Ntiva, big managed service provider out on the East Coast. I've really enjoyed our previous conversations about this AI practice that Ntiva is building, which we as Tech-Gofer are now a referral. You guys are an option that we have in our portfolio. Tell us a little bit about that, because there's just so much buzz around AI. Every vendor under the sun says they're using AI. Companies are spending thousands and millions of dollars on AI. Don't even really know what. So tell us what you guys are doing.
Yeah. So Ntiva has been around. It's our 21st year, founded back in 2004, based out of the Washington, D.C. area. We're a nationally recognized MSP, got about 1,000 employees currently as of today. And I think what makes us really unique, Nick, is that we have a dedicated and excited AI and digital transformation practice that's internal. And some of the things that we focus on are not just the technical aspects of deploying, AI internally or in the cloud, any type of digital transformation work. That stuff, most people can do that. There's so many providers that do that really well. What really makes us different is we have this mantra called "we exist to grow each other." And that's what really helps us talk to our customers and organizations to then fix the culture around AI, the culture around disruptive change, and the culture around changing the way you do things. And we've had so many conversations with our customers and organizations of all sizes. The number one thing that I tell them is, let's have a conversation with your teammates around AI first. Let's figure out the fear and the doubt and the hesitation around it. Let's see who's secretly using it at home, but they're like fearful of admitting it in the office because they don't know if there's going to be some consequence to that, right? So before we tell any of the companies that we talk to, before anybody spends $1 on any type of AI product, whether it's $100 or it's a 7-figure crazy complex project, we first want to address the culture, right? Let's ask your team what they think about AI. Let's survey them. Let's let them express how they feel. And then let's get them in tune with the why. There's so many conversations around AI and Skynet going to take everybody's jobs and we're all going to be on the streets like fighting for food and
Yeah.
not having anything to do, when in reality, it's much more than, it's more than not having to replace people. It's improving culture, efficiency, giving people more opportunities to grow. So really the point I'm trying to get at, Nick, is we got to talk about the culture. And if we could do that, the technology itself, that'll fall into place pretty easily.
Yeah, I had a conversation with somebody that said something that really struck with me, and he was the president of an AI company. And the question was, well, where do you start? We work on a lot of contact center projects. AI is now well within that. His comment was, my recommendation to anybody that's looking to implement or they start with your lowest level employees. Talk with them. Talk with them and see what is their day-to-day. Where can we just very simply bring in an AI to help them, and then we start to go up the, we'll call it organizational chart of where we continue to say. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I love hearing that, because what that does is it gets employees of your organizations involved in the why. Why are we considering AI in the first place? And I'll even take it a step further, Nick. I would say, instead of only just talking to the frontline staff that you have in your organizations, build an AI committee internally. Include people that are on the front lines, right? Include people that are middle management. Include your executives, but also have a variety of people that are tech savvy and already excited about AI. You got to also find the folks that are like not as tech savvy, or they just refuse to learn about this new artificial intelligence complexity that's happening. Get them all on a call, no more than 5 or 6 people, so it's not just many opinions in like a short period of time, and then have a conversation every other week or once a month, and you'd be surprised at the amount of knowledge you're going to learn from all aspects of the organization, especially if it's all levels of people and it's technical and non-technical folks. I love that sentiment, because now what you're doing is you're creating team involvement. And then when the time comes to deploy the AI tool, right, whether we've custom developed it or bought something off the shelf like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Copilot, when that adoption time comes, it is not brute force from the executive team to beg people to use the tool.
Use it, right.
You have all of your employees that are in all levels of the organization. They support each other. They become advocates. They become the cheerleaders, right? They help with that adoption, because the number one thing you want to be mindful of is when you spend money on AI tools, it's ROI. Like, if we're going to spend X amount of dollars on this tool, what are we getting out of it, right? And if you don't have good adoption, how do you measure the result of that investment if you don't have people using the tool that you've paid for?
Yeah. And one of the things I really liked in our conversations about what you guys are offering, and being that we've been doing events all out throughout the US for CIO, CTO, technology decision makers. Everybody knows that AI is out there. And I think C-level folks are reading articles about quantum computing, and really it's cool. So AI exists. I know that it's out there. I don't know how to make that work within my business. What the heck can it possibly do for my business? And then they're relying on these, your IT directors, your CIOs to figure it out. In our conversations, you've already done all the research. You guys are creating business case, KPI tracking type of, trainings. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, look, there's no shortage of AI information on the internet right now. It's a fire hose of information, right? People on YouTube and social media, and everyone's a guru, and it's a lot of theoreticals, right? You got like Jensen from NVIDIA on stage with his awesome leather jacket talking about, we got all these Blackwell chips that can transform data centers and improve, efficiency across trillions of dollars of spend. Most people watching these videos are not managing trillions of dollars of spend inside of hyperscale data centers, right? So while those theory and exciting conversations provide some level of excitement to like kickstart this momentum to talk about AI, what we really have to focus on is, how do we take all of that information? How do we narrow it down by talking to people in all levels of our organization? How do we look at existing business processes, right? Like, what do we execute on every day? And how do we document that, right? How do we ask our teammates what they're looking for? And how do we look at competitors to see how we can become more advantaged against them? So what we're doing, aside from asking the cultural questions, we want to know about the organization. How is your organization designed? How do you make decisions? What processes do you have to execute on a regular basis that cause a lot of pain, right? And I define pain as three things. Number one, it costs too much money to do, right? Number two, it takes too much time or too many man hours to get done. Number three, you can't consistently reproduce the outcome every time you run the process. So if there's something in there that causes that level of pain, too expensive, too much time, not, standardizing the output, that's a great place to say, all right, let's document the process. And then let's figure out if you have a 17-step process to onboard new customers, maybe 4 of them can use some AI. And then we can work with you on building either a custom solution that's hosted in your own public or private data center, or maybe you just need some training around ChatGPT Enterprise. And then we deploy that, set some really good boundaries around the usage.
If you go on to there's an AI for that.com, there's so many
tools out there. Thousands, tens of thousands.
And so it's just, yes, they're very fun to play around with. But I mean, like I've actually, for our team, you can do very simple things like before they have a sales meeting, they can go to ChatGPT or Perplexity.ai or whatnot. They can do simple stuff where, hey, the company I'm meeting with, this is the CIO that we're meeting with. What's happening in their world, right? Tell me the top 3 things that have been, in the press about this company. Well, now when they jump on a call, it seems as though they've done a lot of research on the company where really they didn't. So I find it interesting because, AI can be so big and there is so much going on in these organizations, but like little things like that are the starting point. That's where I think a lot of organizations are missing it where, I've seen it in contact center where, we spent all this money on this new cloud contact center solution with all these 30 different AI things. You didn't even know how to use the first 2. Why did you just buy the other 28, right?
You're so right. And everyone's excited. And Nick, what happens is people use AI as an umbrella term for a bunch of things that are not really even AI. Like there's a ton of stuff we do at Ntiva that's more like digital transformation, right? And there's stuff where we call it automation, where it's not really generative AI doing something. It's just a process that's been digitized that's just executing the same time over and over with some pre-programmed logic, right? So totally relate to you on the fact that you don't need to overspend. I think there's really 2 frameworks I'd like to offer to the listeners and the viewers of this episode. I think number one, think about AI from a crawl, walk, run mentality, right? For all the sales folks listening to this, you know that framework already. You know how to get people from crawling to walking to running. Same thing with AI, right? Crawling with AI is learning how to use ChatGPT, learning how to prompt, learning how to trust AI to get some output so that it can benefit your day-to-day, right? Walking with AI is kind of like what you said. How do you use AI to do some sales research on prospects so that when we show up for discovery calls, we're prepared and we sound like we know what we're talking about, right? You could take it a step further from that and say, how do you run with AI, which is, we want to plug AI into our software applications and then have that find data for us and help us make better decisions based on prompts, right? You can chat with your data, essentially. That's where we get to, right? So Ntiva can do all 3 of those and we meet people where they are. So that's framework number 1. And then I think from a framework number 2, you want to think about AI as either a brainstorming partner or you want to think of AI as a tool, right? So a tool sits in your environment somewhere, right? And it's given certain levels of access and you only use that tool when a certain function needs to happen, right? So that's one-to-one interactions, like ChatGPT is a tool. Google Gemini is a tool, Claude and Perplexity and Copilot from Microsoft. These are all tools that allow one-to-one interactions. Those work really well. But if you think about AI as an infrastructure add-on, right? And you think about instead of one-to-one interactions, how does AI tap into our ERP software and how can our entire finance team use that AI integration to now ask questions and read between the lines to say, all right, with our P&L in the last quarter, what are some ways for us to improve profitability with the 1,700 SKUs that we're selling, right? To have that level of unlock, I truly believe, Nick, 2025 is going to be the year of agentic AI where they tap into software and it's going to give company-wide value, not just the one-to-one ChatGPT interactions. And if organizations that are watching this, if you can start thinking about AI on a grander scale, how do we involve the entire company? How do we connect ERP, with finance, with sales and CRM and everything else in one place. Now it's a data strategy. You are going to be eating everybody else's lunch when you have the ability to move like that.
Yeah, it really is fascinating, all the different use cases. I mean, I have a new mentor this year, a YPO guy. I took his information and his company website and said, as the president of Tech-Gofer, how could I utilize this person's skills as a mentor to blah, blah, blah. And immediately it pumps out, based upon Dan's skills. And I sent it to him.
That's
I'm like,
amazing.
this is pretty cool. Check out what they're saying that you can help me with. So
Yeah.
it is fascinating. And that's where, like I said, there's so many, every tech company out there saying that they're using AI, they're AI enabled, really none of it matters unless there's an actual result, right? And that's where I really, really appreciate what you guys are doing, where you've done the research on these different AIs. Because again, Copilot works very different than ChatGPT, which works different than Perplexity and Claude and the ones you mentioned. But actually being able to have that conversation of, okay, let's take that technology, let's make it applicable to the business, and let's monitor that so that we're getting results. We're having more efficient employees. They're able to do their job faster. We're getting, again, increased profitability.
Yeah.
I like what you guys are doing. So that's really exciting. And candidly, you're one of the only companies I've talked to that is taking it from that approach, which is exciting. So for those of you that are listening and or viewing, please reach out to Tech-Gofer. We are happy to connect you with Sagar and his team. Let's have an open, easy conversation with AI, no sales bullshit. Do you have anything else that you'd like to share? I mean, I have, of course, the question of what's the future of AI going to bring, but it's tough.
Yeah, I'm grateful to be on this podcast with you, Nick. You've been so energetic and receptive of this knowledge. We're not going to gatekeep stuff. We're going to share all the knowledge that we have, right? And we're not just doing ChatGPT implementations and training your team and calling it a day. We have internal skill sets that can develop custom AI models trained on your company data, hosted in your data center, and then we can deliver it as like a Teams chat bot or inside of Slack or as a web interface or a mobile app. There's so many things you can do beyond just, again, the ChatGPTs that everybody knows about. That's the exciting thing. And it doesn't cost millions of dollars to do this stuff. You can get custom AI today from Ntiva. Don't quote me, but on average, you could be in the tens or even single thousands, depending on the size of data, again, complexity of the organization, what we're doing for you. It's not unreachable. We want to make this accessible to organizations of all sizes. And we primarily focus on small, medium-sized, and middle market. There's room for enterprise. There's room for mom and pops and everything in between. So we just want to get away from this thought that AI is unreachable financially. It's not. It's totally available. You just got to know where to look and who to work with, right? And I think secondly, our CEO, Steven, he touts this. He's very AI energetic. He's so AI focused, and I really appreciate that about him and his willingness to drive that energy in the company. He always tells us and our clients, right? If you want to be in the top 1% of anything you do in your life, you have to spend, I think there's some research around this, you have to spend about 100 hours doing something to be in the top 1%. So like playing a piano, riding a bike, right? Playing baseball. 100 hours, you're going to be in the top 1%. The bar is pretty low, right? 100 hours is not a long time. If you extrapolate that over a year, that's 17 minutes a day. So if you can get your team to think about or use ChatGPT for 17 minutes a day for an entire year, your entire company is going to be in the top 1% of AI users in the world, right? And imagine what you can do January 10, 2026, if you started today, where you'll be a year from now and how much of a competitive advantage you're going to have in the market for retaining employees, for attracting customers, for attracting investors, brand equity. There's just, the train has left the station for AI, and it's either the companies and individuals that use it that are going to succeed, or the ones that are not really excited and they're denying it, they're just going to continue to get left further and further behind. So my plea here, as we almost sign off, use the tool. 15, 20 minutes a day, you're going to be in the top 1%.
Yeah. Well, and listen, for those of you viewing and listening, reach out to Tech-Gofer. We're, again, happy to connect you with Sagar and his team. Let's start small. Again, I love the crawl, walk, run scenario because it seems like it's so big and so complex. But at the same time, when you break it down and you can little itty bitty things that you can have, again, the front line of your team, if they just start using it for little things. it can add up in a big way. And I love the 100 hours thing. That was really sweet. So
Yeah.
before we sign off, again, Sagar, thank you so much for being on. We always like to talk about something golf related. So I have for you, who is your favorite golfer and why?
So it's going to be a super cliche answer. It's actually two golfers, right? Number
That's
one,
okay.
Tiger Woods. He's the guy. I'm a big fan. I used to be a big fan of Vijay Singh because he's an Indian golfer, man, and he kind of represented the South Asian community.
Oh,
And
VJ's
he was the guy. So I'm not a big golfer, but those are the two names that come immediately to head when
I
you
love
ask
it.
me.
No, VJ's a hell of a player. And yeah, I mean, it's look, Tiger for all of his stuff, people still love Tiger. They root for him. If
Yeah,
you're a golfer, like to see him out there and whatnot, like it,
it's
despite
amazing.
all the other stuff, people love comeback story, all that.
Yeah,
I do watch my fair share of golf. Honestly, Scotty Scheffler, he's killing it. I mean, he's so entertaining. He seems like such a nice guy on camera and whatnot.
yeah.
So that would be my pick for right now. But yeah, it's crazy just how the talent pool of professional golfers. I mean, those guys are absolutely unbelievable.
The level, like that's not 100 hours. That's thousands of hours of effort. And even if you do the hours you put in, you may never reach that level. There's a lot of variables that come into playing a
Oh,
good game, right? It's not just that. It's luck and genetics and timing and upbringing, and it's a lot. So it's not just the hours. So I can appreciate when you see that talent, it like you're in awe of their capabilities to be able to do
oh
things
yeah.
that are like
Well,
superhuman.
I was gonna say just watching where they're driving from, and I don't know where these people think that it's okay to be as close or in line.
I
Like
know they're like
these
right
guys are
around.
pros, but they have bad shots.
Yeah,
And like I don't know if you see, golf balls are hard and they will hurt you. So
yeah,
it's
especially a
quite
guy that's
impressive
bald.
just watching it. Yeah, exactly. So well, excellent. Well, again, Sagar, thank you so much for being on.
Thanks,
I
man.
hope everybody that's listening, you've learned something today. AI is not the scary big thing that it has to be. Contact us here at Tech-Gofer. Reach out to Ntiva. We're happy to help. And otherwise, cheers. Thanks again.
Cheers,
And we'll
man.
see you next time on Get in the Hole with Tech-Gofer. Thanks, everybody.